Welcome back to another SSL Family Dad viewer comments video. It's been a while since we've done one, and it is summer here, 2019. These episodes we go through some of the top comments and most interesting or odd comments that have been posted on the past 10 or so videos that we've released here on the SSL Family Dad channel. So let's dig in and discuss some of the comments on the past few videos here. Lissa Boardwine says, "I can't believe you didn't save all of those hinges. LOL." This was on the rabbit hutch video that I did, where it was a Farm Days episode, my biggest failure of 2018. And man, was that rabbit hutch a failure. That thing was just a complete disaster. Fought with that thing all winter, trying to make it work, and it was just needed to be burned. It was more of a ceremonial burning. It was more of a relief for me to just see it burn. I didn't want to deal with it anymore, and I certainly didn't want to deal with taking all those hinges off. Now, I suppose that was very wasteful of me. I could have saved those hinges, but I guess if I still want them, I can dig through the ashes and find them. Jim Putnam says, "I love people who gather what others throw out. My dad used to say you can make a living from what others discard if you can find a use for it." This is so absolutely true. And what I have found out here from homesteading or farming is that you can just never have enough things. And things on the side of the road I see, people throwing away, and I'm like, oh, I could use the metal from that, or I could use the wood from that, or people on Craigslist giving away free wood, and I'm, trying to heat the greenhouse and our house with wood and all these things. And so there is an unlimited amount of resources out there that you can get for very cheap or free that if you have a little bit of imagination, you can use for some useful things around here. And so I definitely agree with that, Jim. Steve Slade says, "Your comments appreciated. Unfortunately, you sound like you were pretty naive. Petting pigs and rubbing their belly? Sorry, but that just doesn't fly. But you aren't the only one. YouTube is loaded with people with blinders on in regards to animal husbandry. Better luck on other endeavors." This was in response to my pigs video, the truth about raising pigs. We have these American guinea hog pig breed, and they are known, if you read the American guinea hog website, for being docile, and stories of petting and holding the pigs and the children with the pigs and rubbing their bellies and all those things. And we experienced most of that here. The pigs are very docile. The moms, especially the females, are very tame. But I was definitely not naive. I never have trusted the full-grown boars. They have been aggressive towards me in the past, and they're definitely not, as a piglet, I definitely rubbed his belly and all those things. But as he got more mature, I definitely was very careful around him. I never went in the pasture without first feeding him, carrying a stick usually, or some kind of a defensive weapon, and I never turned my back to him, with the exception of the one time that I turned my back to him, and I underestimated his strength and his speed and his power and his drive to attack me, I guess, at that point, and made a mistake. And that's where I got hurt. And so I don't know if I was naive, but I definitely made a mistake that I will never make again, and turning my back in a pasture with a full-grown boar, and so I definitely understand that, and I do think that's true, and that's why I did that video on the truth about raising pigs, because I don't want people to be naive, and I don't want people to think that these pigs are just cuddly little animals. They are, and they are friendly for you, but generally just because you're the person that feeds them, and they only care about food, and they will literally, if you stick your hand out, they will bite it and eat it, and they don't care. So you can't really train them. They're not pets. And that's just important to know. SC Homestead says, "Pineapples take 2 years to grow, and they will be as wide as your growing space and about as tall as your light. I'm sorry to say, unless you only want a pineapple in your bed, I'd reconsider. Great idea, though. We might try an indoor bed this winter." So this is in response to one of the indoor grow videos that I did. And I had replanted the top of a pineapple in the bed, and it is starting to grow. But I didn't realize how big they grew and how much space that they'll actually take up just to grow one pineapple, and how long they'll take. And so I may leave it in there until it gets out of control, and then maybe transplant it out to the greenhouse here and see if we can keep it alive through the winter, or just let that experiment go to the wind. But thanks for the advice, SC Homestead. I appreciate it. Sadie, a frequent commenter, says, "How do you even start cleaning this up? It stresses me out just looking at it. Awesome harvest, good job." This is in response to the last update I did on the grow tunnel behind me and my tomato plants that are growing everywhere. Sadie, I feel your pain. I look at it when I come out here, and it does frustrate me. I like my gardens to be lined up and staked up and nice and pretty, but one thing I have learned is sometimes gardens just do what they want to do, and it's okay to let them do that sometimes, even though it does stress me out, and apparently you as well. Brian S. comments, very nice. Might be wishing you'd put in a gate someday. This was on the privacy fence video that we did, and a very frequent or very common comment on that video is that we did not put in a gate. The reason for that is right on the end of that fence that you didn't see, there is a tree line, and on the other side of that tree line is a road that travels back and forth to our barn where there is no gate there. And so we use that to just go around the end of that fence. That fence was mainly to block some noise into our backyard, and also so that people can't, as they're driving by, look into our barns and are the kids in the pool and all that kind of stuff. Just a little bit of privacy. We do have several other entrances to the front yard on multiple sides of the house and things like that. So I don't think I'll regret putting a gate or not putting a gate in there, but I guess only time will tell. And the next few comments are on a video that I did entitled Michigan Farmers Are in Real Trouble. And I was out tilling up the what was going to be the sunflower patch that I have other plans for I'll share with you later. I was tilling that up, and we were just we've just had such a wet year up until now. Farmers have been struggling to plant crops, and there are fields that are still not planted in July, and people have had to change and do different crops and all kinds of other things. It's just been a challenging year for farmers because of all the water. But this video has gotten lots of traction on YouTube, and it seems like people have some very interesting ideas about what farmers should do here in Michigan, and also where did all this, what's the reason for all this rain this year? Kenneth Bailey says, I guess you could grow rice or cranberries. Well, just because it rains a lot one year doesn't mean that it's a good idea to grow rice or cranberries. They require a very different set of environment that we don't have here in Michigan on a regular basis. That the rain this year was an anomaly that farmers haven't seen in many 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and so this was a very odd spring, and so I don't think that we should start planting rice here in Michigan just yet. Gina says, same here in eastern Missouri. It's so much water. I'm stocking up now on food for fall, winter, even bought a deep freezer because I expect the prices to be through the roof. Well, Gina, I know a lot of people share your concerns. I wouldn't worry too much about that just yet. I think the farmers have got a pretty good handle on it and are starting to catch things up. But it's always good to be prepared, and that's not a bad thing to stock up on some essentials around the house. Feed costs and hay and things like that probably will be a little more expensive this year, and that kind of drives up food and everything else. But I do think that we'll all be all right. And some people just get just downright out of control. Above all people says, oh dear, LOL, whose land are you devils going to steal next? Wherever you go, they will be expecting you, and they won't make you feel very welcome. Who? Spurious Effect says, the grand solar minimum, wringing water from the air like clockwork. The coldest October through June on record. Good luck. Interesting. David Potts says, geoengineering is all about preventing and destroying food production between the 45th and 42nd parallel. Leisurely Logan says, I would say that this is the change of the intertropical convergence zone, which has brought the sharks to the east coast, extreme drought to India, and snow in June for Canada and Montana. The zone has a 5,000 plus year cycle and probably in sync with a longer solar cycle. Are you ready for the great starvation? You should be planting rice. Put in drain pipes. Plant on a hill, cut the grass, plant rice, use raised beds. Geoengineering, weather warfare in America. Maybe you should plant rice. Why not use silage for cattle? You need a turning plow. Have to start planting rice. Global warming.
They're coming.
Maybe plant rice? Big trenches like they do in Iraq. Iraq's in a desert, isn't it? Roger Diago says, I'm a time traveler from the year 2089, and I just returned to tell you the global cooling will end that year. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. Whew. Global warming. It's too hot in there. Yeah. Bailey's Construction says it would be really easy to set up to be able to do every bit of that processing yourself. Now this was in response to the bacon or pork video. I say bacon because that was my favorite part, but this was the haul of pork that we got from the 3 little pigs that we raised out and processed. And many people made this comment, or very similar comments, that you should do the processing yourself. And while I do agree that that is a goal of ours to be able to do that here, and many people have said it's very easy to set that up, but I can tell you, I really don't have a great place to do that set up right now. And at this point, I'm trying to get rid of these pigs kind of as quickly as possible so I can focus on other livestock. And so I don't plan on raising pigs and processing them myself. But I definitely think that it is something that a homesteader or farmer can do, and I know many people have. And it is something that I may learn or do in the future if I decide to get back into pigs. But right now, I'm focused on getting them out of here, getting them to the processor, and getting the meat in the freezer. Bart Hamburg says it would have been a lot cooler and easier if you had just set it on fire. And this was in response to me tearing down the shed to make room for the pool. They had that old shed there, it was all nasty, and many people said, why didn't you just light it on fire? And man, I really thought about it. I thought about just building a little fire and watching that sucker burn, but I'll tell you what, the size of that shed and how dry it was and everything like that, it probably would have burned the trees and the chicken coop and other things that were nearby. That was one concern that I had. The other concern that I had was every single nail in that whole entire structure would have just been dropped into the dirt right down below there. And I plan to use that area for a play structure for the kids, and I just didn't want a bunch of burnt, rusty nails laying in there. And so I tried to take it apart very carefully and move it over to our fire pit where it will get burned there. All the nails and things like that will then be in one central place I can scoop out and go bury in the woods those ashes and nails and all the hardware and things like that that are all burnt and rusted. So that was the reason why I didn't just set it on fire, although that would have been a lot of fun. Hart commented, I think a water level using clear pipe would be pretty easy way to level your legs when setting up a pool like this. He's talking about the pool setup video that we just recently did and how I leveled that area. What I did was I picked a central point in the circle and then I used a 12-foot 2x6 to put a level on top of it and then just kind of drag and swing it around in the radius of the circle to smooth and level that all out and make sure it was level. That worked pretty good. What he's talking about here is you can actually use a water hose level, and what you do is you run a hose, you stake it in the center point wherever you want the level to be, you fill it with water, and you have a clear piece of pipe attached to the other end of it, and wherever that water level comes up in your tube, your clear tube, you mark exactly where that level is, and you can take that around and use that water level to level out of any size area. And it's actually very handy to do, and I thought about setting one of those up, but in this case I had a 12-foot 2x6 and it worked perfectly for that size pool. On that same video, Chris Robinson says, nice job. Use black trash bags to heat up your water. No. Many people have commented about heating this pool. I had a pool at our old house that we bought it on Craigslist, moved it, built a deck around it, built a solar pump for it, built a wood burning heater for it. Check out those videos. I'll put a link in the description or in the eye or whatever to those videos. But many people had commented that I should get a solar cover, use bubble wrap, use black trash bags, and build solar heaters and all those things. However, this pool, the size of this pool and where it's at right now, it gets full sun pretty much all day long, and it has been very warm. I mean, it's got to be 75, maybe 80 degrees in there pretty much every day, and it's very comfortable for the kids and myself. My wife has even gotten in, and she won't get in unless the water is nice and warm, and so that's proof that that water has been kept pretty warm just by the sunshine. Bradley Mitchell Jones commented, I may be wrong, but pressure-treated wood is not good to have near consumables. I addressed this in the video. This was on the raised bed garden boxes that we built, the little DIY boxes. Very solid little garden boxes. I love those, that design. But yes, we did use some pressure-treated wood in there for the legs, and I would honestly be comfortable using pressure-treated wood all around it, but it is a little more expensive, and so I don't see the point. There is a whole argument about pressure-treated wood in your garden. anytime I mention anything about using pallet wood or pressure treated wood or anything like that, there's a huge amount of discussion about whether you should or shouldn't. And I will just say this, the final answer to that question is it's really up to you and whatever you want to do. I have read articles that say pressure treated wood and the amount of copper azura that's in there that could possibly leach out into the gardens and then be uptaken by the plants, which I guess don't really do that, and it would kill the plants before it would ever have enough in it to hurt you. And there's all kinds of good articles about that. There's also articles that say that you don't want that stuff in your body and in your vegetables, and I understand that argument too. And so it's really up to you. Take a calculated risk if you want to, and use the pressure treated wood. It's going to last a whole lot longer. Otherwise, don't use pressure treated wood, and it's going to rot out faster. And that's the decision that we each have to make. Cassie D comments, real men wear and ride pink. I remember riding hay wagon before we moved from farm to city when I was 5. This was on the hay baling video that we just recently did, and man, it is my wife and I, it's SSL Family Mom, and I think the kids too, really is our favorite thing that we do here on the farm is harvest that hay. We all get together. It's a lot of work, but what a satisfying thing to have that barn just stacked full of hundreds of bales of hay that feeds our animals for the year, provides some income for us, and it's just a great thing to be able to harvest that much off of our property. And this was in response to me riding the little pink four-wheelers around. You know what? You use what you have. We have those 2 little cheap pink four-wheelers here, and the kids love them. They actually work right now, and my golf cart is broken, unfortunately. That's what I would normally use. It needs a new battery, and so I'm waiting to gather together the money to buy a good one for it and to get that fixed. So you might see me on a pink four-wheeler. All right, I'm man enough to ride it with pride, I hope. And lastly, Jeremy Owens says, much better than that hustle and bustle of the city. I miss the countryside. Again, in response to the hay baling video, it is one of the things that really brought us out here and makes us feel at home. I baled hay as a kid on some local neighbor farms, and it is living out here and living out on a homestead or farm, your own piece of property. Although we do have neighbors, that we can see their houses from our property and things like that. It's, we do have 25 acres here, and we can get out and we can, go in the woods. We can go out in the fields. We can just do so much here, and the freedom that we have out here is just amazing. And something that being trapped in the subdivision to us just felt like we always felt restricted, and there's so many rules, and you can't do this and you can't do that, and you got neighbors right next door, and it wasn't for us. And so I agree with Jeremy here. It is much better than the hustle and bustle of the city, and we love it out here. You guys watch these videos on YouTube, but don't go and read through the comments. You're missing out. I mean, that's where half the fun happens, is in the comments. So I would encourage you guys, go back and check out the Farmers Are in Real Trouble video and some of the other ones, and just read through the comments, because there is all kinds of interesting things on there. As always, guys, thumbs up on the viewer comments video. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.